Okay, wish me luck. Hi, we're the Flying Finnies, a 50-something couple on their way to visit 60 countries before we turn 60. We're in country number 8, Vietnam, and in our last video we took you on a luxury cruise to the UNESCO World Heritage Area of Ha Long Bay. So if you missed out on that episode, and judging from the number of views a few of you did, don't forget to check that out in our Vietnam playlist. In the first video of this series, we'll take you through the first 2 days of our epic ride through the Ha Giang loop. So stick around as we talk about the problems we faced renting scooters, getting on the road, and some of the challenging road conditions we faced.
It's a 6-hour journey from Hanoi to Ha Giang, so we decided to book the sleeper bus. As usual, we chose the cheapest option, but we might suggest you do otherwise. It was comfortable, it got us there, but it was very basic.
We took the morning shuttle, which got us into Ha Giang in the late afternoon, and our hostel accommodation was free as part of our bike rental package. What we hadn't fully anticipated was the wet and muddy conditions that riders were experiencing on the loop, and the injuries a number of them had suffered.
So I was feeling really comfortable about this, but now I'm not. People wanted to engage with us while we were waiting to check into our room, telling us about the bad conditions and the rain and the mud and the landslides and everything. So sometimes it's better what you don't know than what you do know, right? I hope that some of the stories people are telling are a bit like fishermen's tales, where they just get a bit more exaggerated the more they tell them. So maybe they're just trying to impress us that they've done this really hard thing in really hard conditions. So that's my wishful thinking.
But before we'd even picked up our bikes, we realised that our Australian-issued international driver's licences were just not going to cut it, as they were not accredited for Vietnam. As we were to discover, this is a mistake many Australians make when coming to Vietnam. We decided the best way forward was to solve this over beer and pizza. We had dinner with a guy by the name of Liam, who comes from Australia and has faced the same problem, and he managed to get himself an international driver's license whilst he was here in Ha Giang. So we're going to go back to our room now and see whether or not we can do the same thing, and tomorrow we'll be good to go. It took us about 2 hours and $210 to arrange a new digital international driver's permit that we could download. And while it appeared to use the same international convention as our Australian licence, the new licence listed Vietnam as an accredited country.
As you can imagine, I was a bit annoyed at having to spend an extra $210 and was really hoping that it was a necessary rather than unnecessary purchase. We'd been told by various people that they were checking licences on the way out of Ha Giang. That didn't happen for us, so at first we thought we really didn't need these licences.
So first police roadblock, we got through it without being stopped.
However, 3 days into the trip, we were pulled over by the police. So we finally got stopped by the police for a check on our licences. And I thought Graham made a mistake, because the first thing he showed him was the not proper licence that doesn't have Vietnam listed on it. And I thought, oh, we're going to have to pay. Anyway, he then looked at our electronic international licences, which we fortunately purchased at great expense the night before we started the ride. And now I'm grateful that we did.
So just to confirm, the Australian driver's licences that we get issued in Australia aren't valid here in Vietnam because they don't adhere to the 1968 convention for international driver's licences. It wasn't my intention to show him the Australian licence, but he saw it in my bag, asked for it, but luckily we had the electronic copy as a backup from the one that we purchased the night before, and it all went very, very easily.
Up to Lava Chai, beautiful ride terrace, and connect to Kanti Bridge and go back to Tam Son.
Another decision we had to make was the route and direction of travel that we were going to take.
There are 2 different ways that you can approach the Ha Giang loop. We're probably doing the loop in reverse, and the people that we spoke to suggested that that was most probably a good thing simply because of the number of people that are out there on the loop at the moment.
Graham's making coffee. It's about 6:45 in the morning, and today is the day that we start riding the Ha Giang loop. That's the good news. The bad news is it's actually raining out there. So that makes us a tad nervous.
In addition to the rain, a significant challenge is deciding what to pack for the Ha Giang loop. You don't need a lot of gear. We decided to leave the masks and snorkels behind despite the weather and packed a change of clothes and bought a couple of ponchos down at the local markets.
So proud of myself. I've got all my clothes and my jacket, etc. into this little plastic bag. So I'm waterproof, I'm small, I'm compact. This is Graham's organised chaos over here. Do you know what all of that stuff is?
We're taking all of it. Thankfully, our bikes came with a range of bungee straps and plastic bags to keep our gear dry, but it is also possible to buy these at the local market.
We're fully fueled and almost repacked. What we forgot when we packed this before is that we had to take it off to refuel. So, tip for young players. Go and fill up your bike with petrol before you pack your bags on it and then go back to the hostel and pack yourself up.
The staff at QT Motorcycles were great, so after a quick review of our route, we were off.
About 2 hours after we planned to start properly, I guess we're headed somewhere up there to those mountains, so bring it on. It's going to take us about a month to do this ride because we keep stopping. It's day one, we're going a little overboard. We took a turn. We're not sure if it's a shortcut or a long cut, but Graham assures me something on the map said we could get coffee soon. It's not a bad spot for lunch. We're on the river.
We're on the river, we're just on the other side of the bridge. And this beautiful valley. Not too shabby at all. Riding through this beautiful landscape, we also had to be constantly on our toes as the road surface changed from bitumen to gravel quickly and potholes crept up when you least expected them. So there's the hole. There's Tracy and the bike. Are we going to call that minor accident number 1?
I guess so. The only thing I injured was my finger, because when I went to pick the bike up, I put it on the exhaust pipe, the hot part, so I've got a little bit. That's all. Bike still works.
Happy days.
Haven't had to claim on the insurance yet.
But we weren't the only ones to be having problems that day.
As we rode along a particularly deserted part of the loop, we happened across a young couple who were worried about the smell coming out of their bike's engine. But not to worry, Graham to the rescue.
You guys okay? Sorry, so what's happened?
He was worried that somewhere it's leaking, you know?
Yeah. Fortunately, they had plenty of oil and it appeared only to be a couple of drops falling onto their exhaust, creating a bit of a bad smell. That's the smell. It's just burnt oil. But I don't think there's any problem.
Yeah.
Maybe when you get to your next stop, you might want to just check your oil level. But apart from that, I think that you'll be okay. I wouldn't be too worried about that.
Thank you very much for your help.
Not at all.
Okay,
Pleasure.
you.
Easy. But there was one more challenge in store for us before we got to our first night stop of New Gear. Okay, interesting. Comment from the super coach?
We have to go down that thing.
We have to go down that thing.
I don't even want to walk on it, let alone ride a bike on it.
Okay. Certainly seems solid enough, apart from the big hole in the concrete there. Nothing to fear. Oh yeah. Okay, wish me luck. All right.
I was too scared to bring my own bike across, so Graham's very kindly doing it for me.
So easy the second time.
My hero.
That was fun. Can we do it again?
We did get across safely, but we're now looking at it from a different angle, and you can see where that little rickety temporary bridge is just propped up there. I'm glad we didn't see that before we went across it.
The last part of our ride, whilst a little rocky, was relatively uneventful, and this allowed us to admire the scenery of this beautiful valley and the villages running through it before making our way into Dugia.
I'm just taking a moment to appreciate this fantastic view, just so that I know that all that really poor, dodgy road, sketchy, scary road that we just went over was worth it. It actually feels safer when you're up in the mountains than down the bottom. The roads down the bottom are just sort of washed away in a lot of places. I'm now an official dirt bike rider, I think. Graham, trying to work out exactly where we went today. We have
Not doing too well.
electronic map, the paper map. Right. The
And
two things aren't matching up.
mental map.
We celebrated surviving day one with a delicious Vietnamese meal. In our next episode, we finish the loop, have more adventures, and almost make it to China.